see. Sun in the sky, you know how I feel. Breeze drift on by, you know how I feel. It's a new dawn, it's a new life, it's a new day for me. Yeah, it's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new life for me. And I'm feeling good. Fish in the sea, you know how I feel. River running free, you know how I feel. Blossom in the tree, you know how I feel. It's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new life for me. And I'm feeling good. Dragonfly out in the sun, you know what I mean, don't you know? Butterflies all having fun, you know what I mean. Sleep in peace when day is done, that's what I mean. And this old world, it's a new world and a bold world for me. You shine, you know how I feel. Scent of the pine, you know how I feel. Freedom is mine, that's how I feel. It's a new day, it's a new dawn, it's a new life. It's a new day, it's a new dawn, it's a new life, it's a new day, it's a new dawn, it's a new life for me. And I feel, I'm feeling good. I feel Thank you. Please remain standing and join us in singing Imagine. Imagine there's no heaven. It's easy if you try. No hell below us, above us only sky. Imagine Imagine all the people living for today. Imagine there's no countries. It isn't hard to do. Nothing to kill or die for, and no religion too. Imagine all the people living life in peace. You may say that I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. I hope someday you'll join us, and the world will be as one. Imagine no possessions, if you can. No need for greed or hunger. The brotherhood of man. Imagine all the people wearing all the world. You may say that I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. I hope someday you'll join us, and the world will live as one.
Good morning, Unity. Those of you who are here, and definitely those of you who are connecting right now to be part of our service, thank you for just saying yes and opening your heart to whatever Spirit has for us today. 50 years ago, July 20th, 1969, man stepped into the moon for the first time in history. It was the result of great vision and dedication and political will, I heard. It took a whole decade. 400,000 people were involved to pull this off, and we just learned that somebody from our congregation, Jim Markov, was involved somehow in this project. There was not the level of computer power we got today. I actually heard that Fitbit watch has more computing power than the computer power they had available to accomplish this mission. Isn't that amazing? And interesting enough that on that Apollo 11 mission, the astronaut Edwin Aldrin took with him Unity's Prayer of Protection by James Dillard Freeman. Isn't that amazing? I guess so. You would need a prayer like that for... Of course, imagination and creativity were key in manifesting something like this, and what is known to be man's greatest leap into the unknown. And today, Reverend Newsom will be exploring more on the power of imagination and creativity. So we were here at the 9, and it's really, really good. So keep performing, please. In the meantime, I do have some announcements. I want to officially welcome those of you who might be here for the first time or one of your first few times. Thank you for just trusting in the inner voice that said somehow you were meant to be here. So yes, I was told we had amazing. Give me some fanfare because it was so amazing that I just... open mic night, 40 people. They open up with a violinist and a drummer duet. Then they had keyboards, they had guitars, they had singers, different genders. It was amazing, and we keep doing that once a month. So if you weren't here this week, make yourself a mental note and show up on the next one. Then on Friday night, again, close to 200 people were here. I have never seen so many hippies. Ooh. In my modern days, we had just an amazing time. Just take a look at these pictures. We were dancing the night away. Music was great. Energy was wonderful. And we just loved each other, being together and playing together. So kudos to the organizing team to pull this off. Oh my God. Ooh. You'll be back, right? I see some of you here. Yes, you did an excellent job. Decorations, food, everything was wonderful. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And then today, back to being serious. We got Dr. Marsha Walters again, like every month. She'll be doing a workshop on cosmic consciousness at 1:30, room 228. And then we're having a workshop that I would like for David Davenport to please come forth and tell us more about.
When I watch the news these days, it seems like there's just no compassion. Everyone's out to get their own way. And there's a power over mentality when people communicate. No one caring about the feelings and needs of the other people. There has to be a better way. And there is. It's called nonviolent communication. NVC for short. And the nonviolent comes from like Martin Luther King's nonviolence and Gandhi's nonviolence. It's a heart-to-heart communication with concerns for the feelings and needs of both persons. It's a power with rather than a power over model. And it provides a win-win result. It encourages compassion. Sometimes it's called compassionate communications. With NVC, we develop empathy for ourselves and others, and have an understanding for the needs of the others as well as our own needs, and with compassion for others as well as ourselves. With NVC, we achieve a better understanding of what our feelings mean and what our needs are and how to achieve those needs. If you'd like to learn more, we have an all-day workshop next Saturday right here upstairs at 9:30 in the morning till 4 in the afternoon. It's free, but now you're going to have to sign up because there's a big demand and there's a few places left, and we're limiting the attendance so we can really focus and get the most benefit for everyone. So sign up and we'll see you there on Saturday. Thank you.
I just love how many wonderful people in our community. And Dave, thank you very much. No wonder I've always had good communication with you. Yes. Okay, last but not least, our millennials are coming together and starting another social group, and their first meeting will be on Sunday, August 11th at 10:15. Having said so, I would like for everybody to please stand and join us in singing the welcome song.
Welcome into this place.
part of our service, in the unity service, in which we just greet one another, hopefully in the same area, and seeing that divine presence. So go for it calmly, but boldly.
Good morning, I'm Janet Jones, and I am a member here at Unity, and I've been invited to talk a little bit about imagination and creativity. So they're going to roll a little PowerPoint presentation, but this is from my perspective and my view that for me to be creative, I need to be in that space that's like a child. And in that space is where the kingdom is, where there's so much to be accessed and that you can create things from. Play, keeping an open heart and an open mind, where you can get a hold of those things and bring them forth. For me, I'm not a painter, but I have played around with painting. And one thing I love to do is collage. I sent Newsom a card not long ago and put a little collage stuff all over it. I can just lose time in that. I also am an improvisational artist, and I teach an interplay, which is a technique of movement, story, and sound. And I love sharing this with people and seeing them open up and sharing with me what's inside. In interplay, there's no wrong way to do it, so I try to take that philosophy into my own life. There's no wrong way to do my life because I'm usually making it up as I go. Anyway, so creativity can be as simple as listening and singing in your own self as the choir sings. Sometimes I do that. I'm singing. I'm not singing out loud, but I'm singing inside. I do love to sing and make up songs. I'm not a great singer, but I just like to see what comes forth without even really putting a plan to it. And you've seen me dress up and be different characters. I love doing that as well. But there is so much inside of all of us. And sometimes I hear people saying, oh, I'm not creative. And I'm like, creativity is that thing that's inside that's as vast as the sky that we can look up into. It's there in all of us. And all it takes is just being an open heart like a child. So I'd like for you to create something with me. So take a deep breath, and whatever is right here, we're just going to let a tone come out. And just let it last the length of the breath. Oh. That was so beautiful. Let's do it again. Take a deep breath and just let whatever is here just come out. Thank you, and keep creating.
Good morning. I'd like to ask those who are in prayer service to stand as we hold sacred space for those who have placed intentions into this prayer box for others and for themselves. Let us pray. I'd like to invite you now to say these words as if they were your own, or for someone whose name has been placed into this prayer box. I am a divine spark. I am creative. I am vast. And as that image and likeness of the divine, I inherit all the qualities for a successful, loving, healthy, safe, and sustainable experience in this incarnation. I am a divine spark of the divine. I am love. I am creativity. And I start just by imagining all that is good, all that is needed for a beautiful, loving experience. And so it is. Amen.
As we begin to move into meditation, if we need to adjust how we're sitting, let's do that and get comfortable. And then let's begin by imagining that we can relax our whole body without any effort, without strain. So we just start at the top of the head and begin to relax the scalp. Relaxing the face now. Imagine the face just relaxing. The eyebrows, the eyes, the nostrils, the lips, jaw, the throat. Feel that relaxation throughout the face. Feel it coming through the neck, and so the neck, both the inside near the throat and also the back of the neck and the sides. Let the shoulders drop. May each breath be a little bit deeper, slower. Feel the heart relax. Feel the lungs relax. We go deeper, we let the belly and the back relax. We let the hips, the legs, the knees, they all are relaxing, along with the calves and the feet. We let everything relax. We imagine that we are floating almost. We imagine that nothing is ours to do at this moment. It is just simply this moment, and we find that in this moment we can imagine all is well. Now, if there's any place that remains with tension or pressure, let's use our breath and breathe into that. So if it's the back, someplace in the back, then take a breath in and imagine that as we breathe in, it opens up that place and the breath goes there. Let us imagine that we can breathe into the left side of our brain. Take a breath and we breathe into the left side of the brain. On the next breath, we breathe into the right side. And with each alternating breath, we breathe into one side or the other. Now as we come into breathing again, let us breathe into our center of our chest and see if we can feel the heart, the energy of the heart anyway. May each breath expand your chest a little so that you can feel more spacious in the heart. Let ourselves be inspired by our breath. Let us imagine a beautiful experience, either one from the past or one from the future. Breathing into that picture, feeling into it with our hearts, imagining it with our minds, making it more real with every breath, with every detail. Turn up the light on it, make it brighter. Feel it more clearly. And as the body responds to the imagination, feel how it feels to have this be true. And deep in your imagination, continue to affirm the beauty of this, the reality of it in your imagination. As we sit together in sacred silence, let us feel, sense, and experience the power of our imagination.
this day our daily bread. You said you would supply all my needs according to your riches. I have but to ask, and I shall receive. To go from here and share this love you gave to me, to
Today we're going to be talking about creativity and imagination, and I want to start with this thought, this essentially that you have been imagining your whole life, that you're imagining at this moment, largely because if you just take the visuals at this very moment, you think you see a totality across your whole visual experience, but it turns out that we each have optic nerves in each eye, and each of those places where the optic nerve comes into the eyeball, there are no receptors for light. And so there's a dark spot in the middle of our visual field. If you have two eyes going, you have two dark spots, but we don't see them at all. We have imagined over that. We think we see a complete, seamless screen in front of us, and it's not really true. So even at the very most fundamental level, we're kind of creating what we see before us. And the truth is that we get so much data about the world coming in through our senses that our senses have overwhelmed the processing unit, and we have to just say, well, I think it's like this, and I'm picking out data that agrees with this. So you only allow in that which seems to make sense to you because it fits your picture, so to speak, right? So you see what you think you will see. You don't see what you don't expect to see so much. And so it's hard to know what's really out there. There's something out there, but we're really not probably all that accurate with it, only partially accurate. That essentially our minds are determining what we see, not the reality out there. That there is a level of interpretation of what's going on. And Charles Fillmore said this a long time ago. Charles Fillmore was one of the co-founders of Unity. He and his wife started this around 1900, and one of the things that was clear to him was that the mind was essentially the arbiter of what we perceive. And he was not the first person to say this. I mean, Kant said it. He said basically our perception is limited by the ability of our instruments. And one of the instruments of perception is your mind. And so your mind is really limiting what you can see, which is good. You can't probably handle, we're doing the best we can. We can't handle more. We have developed a mind which is designed to get us through this world safely. Our filters are functional in essence. You can imagine where your hand needs to go to pick up the cup. But that's an amazing thing right there, that we can throw a baseball into someone's mitt 60 feet away. We can imagine how to do that, and we do it. This is the functionality of imagination is to be out there ahead of us before we do it. Is most of the imagination that's required for our life, we do so easily that we don't even think of it. And so it's easy for us to say, well, I'm not all that imaginative. And I think part of the reason that comes is that we repeat ourselves a lot. We do the same thing over and over, and therefore it feels mundane. There was a man, I was listening to his TED Talk. He said he gave himself a challenge of doing 365 days, doing something new every single day for 365 days of the year. And he says the first 20 days were pretty easy. Go to the museum you hadn't been to, go visit your neighbor that you never talked to, stand on your head, something like that. It was easy, and then he had to kind of work at it for a while. And so as he was trying to invent new things, jump out of an airplane, etc., he realized that it might be good if some other people helped him out with that. So he told his friends, and his friends came up with a lot of stuff because they knew he'd say yes, right? So he ran a 5K, one of these grueling 5Ks in the uphill or something like that. He said he ran a half marathon, which he thought he might do one day. He said the funny thing is, I had another experience the week after that, I had a herniated disc. Apparently, you can't do a half marathon without training. And so, so he had a lot of new experiences. And one of the things, it just brought fun back in his life. Play. Because some of the things didn't make any sense at all. I mean, weren't like productive, like go to the museum or listen to opera while swimming or anything. It wasn't like, he couldn't quite see the connection. He said, his son got into the thing. He says, why don't you go shopping in just a bath towel? He said he was the only guy who's ever been kicked out of a grocery store. And but the one that really stuck with me was, he said, I never thought I would drink my own urine out of a champagne glass. And that one really did, I went, maybe there's some limits to this, I'm not so sure. But what it did for him is it made time expand. As you get older, you tend to say that, gosh, I can't believe how fast it goes by, right? I can't believe that, well, I personally can't believe it's 50 years since the moon launch. I mean, do you know what I mean? That's, I'm wondering where all the points are in between. And one of the things he said was essentially that if you do something novel all the time, you have more points in there, and therefore the time expands. You have stretched out time because you have new things going on. You can remember the poignant things, and sometimes the new things, I remember those new things, but then what happened in between. And so if we can pay attention to our lives, then we would realize that we need novelty. We need to play. We need to do things that we hadn't done before. And one of the things he said, he started to laugh a lot more. And I was just imagining, as this guy was telling these stories, I started to laugh a lot more. That if I thought I would be doing something new every day, I mean, right there, it was kind of pick my spirits up. I've had this, to use a Jimmy Carter phrase, I've had a malaise that I don't know what I should do that would be sparkly and new for me, right? But who cares? Just do something, right? Write your name on the bathroom wall and say, call me for a good time. I don't know, do something new. Do something that you wouldn't normally do. And so I bought a bath towel just after that. And if you hear of something, I haven't really lost my mind. I'm just trying out something new. So to be creative, practice doing something new. To begin to ignite the fun in you. It's not that you're not creative. It's just that you've created something already, and the repetition of it doesn't give you the joy that it could, or maybe that it used to. It just has kind of lost it. I noticed this I've had some real clarity about long-term relationships. That I think part of the problem with long-term relationships and why they're difficult is that you don't have novelty. Right, well, everybody knows that, right? It's like, you're not going to be sleeping with the same person for 50 years, are you? That we don't ask that question in premarital counseling. People want novelty. They crave novelty. They want something exciting, to have something different all the time. And your relationships diminish when it becomes too routine. And so consciously injecting something different and novel into it is part of the secret of making a relationship that you have been in for a long time fresh and exciting. And so think about that. We could all do with imagining our relationship afresh. It's a lot cheaper than starting a new one. Right? I leave that to you, but think about it. So doing something new, something will give you a great sense of that. One of the things I've been doing that's new is I was reading a book by the Dalai Lama. The Dalai Lama was in this book saying the way to human happiness, to being happy as a human being, is to be compassionate. Now, I know that just didn't compute for me. It just was like, really? Being compassionate is going to make me happy? But he's the Dalai Lama, right? So he should know. So he said, here's some exercises to help pull this along for you. One of them, which is to imagine that everybody you see was once your mother, that you've been born countless times, countless lifetimes, and in that countless number of lifetimes, every creature that you see has been your mother, and therefore a benefactor of you, and had shown kindness to you or had given you some great attention at some point in your life. And even though they may be neutral to you, or maybe even your adversary or enemy at this point, at some point in your life, in your evolution, they were your mother. So, like I said, we kind of create the world we see. Most of us don't go around thinking, oh, Wayne, you must have been my mother. I will now, but that process of try it for a few days, just going, everybody I see was once my mother. Even if you do it just for a few minutes here, it begins the world looks a little bit different. I'm feeling you looking at me, and yes, I probably was your mother at some point, but think of that. Everybody you see is your mother, was your mother at one time. So the new people you've loved, that might be easy. The people you don't know or hardly know, that might be a little harder. But the people who are your enemies, you may not think of it at all. But once you do, then there's an equanimity about everybody. Everybody kind of deserves your compassion. And they deserve your compassion because they had been kind to you at some point. And if they're not kind to you at this very moment, if they were actually being mean to you at this moment, you have compassion because they're developing bad karma for themselves, and one day they'll have to deal with it. And it's a nice little package, isn't it? It's a whole nother way of imagining the world. And since we're making it up anyway, since we're imagining what the meaning of that person is in front of you anyway, or what anything means anyway, why not have that be your meaning? And from that place, then you look out on the world with so you deserve my compassion. So this imagination is really the foundation of us perceiving the world in the first place. What we choose to filter in and filter out is the trick of life. So to rehearse, we don't really know what's out there. In essence, we are creating it. We will have much more fun creating it if we have much more fun doing novel things. And we are essentially able to transform the world we see by the thoughts and the image and the style in which we look at the world. There's one more thing I'd like to say, is that as you do your creative activity, your gift to the world, sometimes people have done great things and it becomes difficult to live up to. I was listening to Elizabeth Gilbert, who wrote Eat, Pray, Love, She did it at a relatively young age. I think she was under 40, or about 40 when she wrote it. And one of the things that happened was this counteracted what her parents and lots of other people had said, is you'll never be successful, you'll never have money, and you'll probably be starving and in a gutter before too long. And she proved that wrong. But with that came other people saying, well, now I really feel sorry for you. You'll never live up to that book you wrote, right? What are you going to do for your next act? How can you match that? Aren't you going to just feel terrible when they criticize you? And she thought about that. And it is intimidating to have worldwide success like she did, and then to have to go back out there and do something again. So she did some research on other cultures that have been creative, that don't have the history of making writers into alcoholics. So she went into, she studied, found that in Greece and Rome, that when you were creative, especially when you did something brilliant, you were said to have been influenced by your daemon, if you're in Greece, or your genius in Rome. And so these were disembodied spirits or presences that would come through you and give you that creative burst or creative expression of some sort, and that would be what animated you to be successful in that profound way. And that sense of genius was actually not yours, but belonged to the genius that lived outside you, but came through you. And so this way of thinking took the pressure off the artist. If they did something really great and everybody praised them, they would say, well, it was just my genius or just my daemon that did this. It didn't have to take ownership of the product of what happened. And by the same token, it took pressure off that once you had done it, if it didn't turn out, you could say, well, I was doing it all by myself. The genius didn't come through this time, right? Which is pretty cool, because your ego doesn't have to take ownership. Both become too proud or too embarrassed by whatever happened. You had another to take the responsibility for it. Now, in fact, I think this is actually much more true than our society accepts at this moment. After the Enlightenment in Europe, when science and the idea of agency came in and we were less given to superstition or really to believe in God, when we became less like that, we thought less that there was some other spirits that were doing things, and we took ownership of it. And in some ways that was helpful for us, but in other ways it has caused us to ignore, in my opinion, the other when it moves through us. And so we say, oh, I don't have genius, or I'm such a genius, depending on how it's going. I mean, in the last month, I think I saw the 3 movies based on music, right? The Elton John, the Rhapsody, and the one on yesterday. All 3 of them. The genius that came through those people. The Beatles escaped most of it, but the other 2 guys tanked badly. And so it's because it became about them, right? And they couldn't live up to it without a bunch of drugs. It was just too much to handle. And so it's really helpful to realize that they were gifted with something that was not theirs. It was merely coming through them, right? This is very helpful for those of you who are rock stars So just... But it happens in other places. You know, we have our moments of genius, and part of it, I'd like to talk to you about how to invoke it in general. One is to meditate. Meditate, pray. But to meditate is to begin to clear your mind out of the I thought, the I am doing. And it can you can hear it at least long enough to realize that that's just a thought. It's not the truth, this I, right? So that's the beauty of meditation. You may not come into a blank state of mind, but you'll become aware that your mind is just chattering away, and that's not really you. You're watching it. So there's a bit of a gap there from your thoughts, your personal thoughts. Meditation, play. As Janet was saying, she moves into the childlike nature, and then she moves into the kingdom. So there's a degree of freedom that comes that allows you to be different than your normal self as you do this, as you can become like that. You can be anything that is compelled through you. So you have more freedom. You have more style points. You could do anything. You could be foolish. You could be fun. You could cry. Whatever is needed in that moment, you could do that because you have become childlike, and you come to that as an adult through play. You play more. And then the third thing is to ask, to be really honest that you want this to come through you. So I sit here the first third of every Sunday service, and I ask that something come through me, right? So if something does come through me on Sunday, great, and if nothing comes through me on Sunday, well, it wasn't my fault, you know. So don't blame me. But really, I have this sense when it's really working up here that it's not just me doing it. And I have been trained, I feel, by the presence that uses my thing, that in the beginning, it really, really helped me. Well, this is a little personal here, but it would come in every single Sunday, and then about every 15th one, it would say, no, I'm not going to be there at all. I was freaked. I'd freak out. And when I told this the first Sunday, I said, and I don't ever tell people when I feel like I'm doing it myself, and somebody on the front row said, we know. But this asking is the honest place to be. You're humble. You're admitting that if you want something great to happen, it's going to take more than just you. And you're coupling with the divine. Now, it doesn't come through you without you. It's not like you disappear. It's not the same as channeling. It is an invocation of the partnering of you and the divine. And I have the feeling that even though I don't do this everywhere, it could be done that way. That you could do your life as an incredibly partnered being with the divine. I've talked to people who do spiritual work with people. Often they say the same thing. It's like, I do it, I'm not it. Right? It's the same thing. But also you know that this could happen in other places. And this is what Elizabeth Gilbert was saying. And she was talking about another writer who was a woman who did poetry. And the woman was, from about the age of 10, she said she would be out in the yard playing or gardening or something, and she would hear a poem coming across the fields, like a rumbling coming, and she would run to the house to get a pen and paper to write it down. And if she was too slow, she didn't get anything. But here's a quirky thing. She said if she got there and it was halfway past her, she could grab it and pull it back and write it down, only it came in reverse order. The last word was the first word she wrote, and the first word was the last word of the well, anyway, backwards. It came through backwards. But if she got there on fast enough, it would come down and she would write it out once, and it would be perfect. So Coleridge, I'd heard this years ago when I was in, I don't know, college or high school, that Coleridge had this download of the Kubla Khan, the poem. In Xanadu did Kubla Khan the Pleasure Dome decree, that one, that long, beautiful poem that's really, it's actually quite impressive. He got it just as a download, and he missed something, and he could never get it back. It was gone. And so I think the artists in our community have this in exaggeration, but don't you have it everywhere? I mean, don't you have this thing where you're asked to be something more than yourself, more than just this? And if you do this, if you expand your repertoire through play or study or effort of some kind, and you clear your mind enough to know that you could use some help and not be so caught up in your egoic fear, you can ask the divine to come and do the work for you. Do this through me. I'm just a little overwhelmed. Now, in Greece, they called it the daemon. In Rome, they called it the genius. And in the United States, we say Jesus. Don't we? Come on, Jesus, do it for me, right? It is an invocation. It's always been an invocation to something other, non-physical, that we can see. And we have different names for it, but the truth is the same. We are more than this, and that is not even not us, it's just not us. That makes sense. We're part of this whole collective, this whole thing, and there is brilliance inside each of us if we will call on it. And if it's not really in you, it's like nearby, somewhere close enough. And like I said, you may not get it every time. Doesn't always happen for me. It's like sometimes you're on your own. But that's training for us anyway. When you're on your own, it's commanding you to take full responsibility of your life, which is also true. So it doesn't help to call on the gods and then to say, well, it wasn't me. It was the devil that made me do it. You can't do that. They won't come for that reason. They won't come to take responsibility from you. They come to make you better at being yourself. So this invocation of the divine, or of your daemon, or of your genius, or of Jesus, or something, I invite you to do that. One more little story. So in North Africa, some years ago, they used to dance. They would have these dances that would go on all night. And occasionally, and not every time, but occasionally a dancer would be overwhelmed by their daemon would come through, and they would be infused with the spirit, and they would dance in such a powerful way that people would notice. And what people would chant then when that happened was Allah. Allah, 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 because they were essentially seeing God act through a human form at that point. And when the Moors invaded Spain, they carried with them this tradition. Only it became Olé. So something great happens, ole, right? It's most famous in the bullfights, but also in some of the dancing, and they do it in there. So it's not confined to the just others, it's us. And one of the things I would hope is that we would take this to heart, that we should play, that we should imagine a great life and live it as best we can, but also pray and invite the divine through us. So when we are doing something, we'll have this sense of, ole, it's just happening. And maybe it will be when you're playing with your child or your grandchild, or maybe it's when you're putting together a dinner, or maybe when you're comforting someone whose heart is so broken that you don't know what to do. And then it will come through you because you've made yourself ready and you've asked. Let us pray. As we come to our own calling, our own desires, our own hopes, let us see if we can be both playful and intent. Intent to bring the best that we have to it. Intent to invite that which is transcendent through us. Intent to not be here and to be fully here at the same time. To learn to dance in such a way that we live in the presence as the presence. To not be too proud or too humble. To let it flow through us. To let it be us. The world needs your genius. Because your genius inspires everyone else's genius, the world needs you to play, to pray. May we be so bold. We put ourselves in the position where we know we need help. And then we know how to get it. And so it is. Amen. That's the last idea, you know. Playing small, you can get by with being yourself. Where's the fun in that? Which means you're going to fail sometimes, right? Well, every great person has, right? And no one has ever been great without being scared, I can tell you that. It's part of the game. But when you have died and you look back on your life, which would you rather be? Oh, wow, I was really scared then. Or, oh, I forgot what I did for the last 50 years. Here we go. Let's go get scared. Okay, let's take our gifts and we're going to bless them. So don't be afraid to give. Go big or go home. Oh, that's funny timing. I just want to say that Ellen Grace O'Brien's going to be here. Her name has a what do you call it? A prefix on it now. It's called Yogacharya, which means that she does yoga really well. And we're not talking about hatha yoga. We're talking about combination of joining her being with the divine, that yogaing of the two. So she's been here several times. She's going to do a workshop here on a Sunday afternoon. She's also going to do a Kriya Yoga initiation, which is what Yogananda. She's out of that tradition. This Kriya Yoga is a special form of meditation that you cannot. They don't advise you do it without initiation. Anyway, she's going to do that the Saturday before the Sunday that she's here. I hope you all will take advantage of it. If you have been interested in Kriya Yoga, it's what Yogananda did to become Yogananda. Okay, think about it. We'll also be doing her book on the Jewel of Abundance for the next 4 weeks. We'll have them for sale next Sunday. All right, thank you. Let's do our offering together. Divine love, as me, blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. And I just want to acknowledge the geniuses on the stage. These guys are great.
Come with me, and you'll be in a world of pure imagination. Take a look, and you'll see into your imagination. We'll begin with a spin, traveling in the world of my creation. What we'll see will defy explanation. If you want to view paradise, simply look around and view it. Anything you want to, do it. Want to change the world? There's nothing to it. There is no life I know to compare with pure imagination. Living there, you'll be free if you truly wish to be. You will find in your mind there's a world of endless fascination. No more fun place to be than in your imagination. You can dream any dream. You can savor every situation. Life in there's a sensational sensation. If you want to see magic lands, close your eyes and you will see one. Wanna be a dreamer? Be one. Anytime you please, and please save me one. There is no place to go to compare with your imagination. So go there to be free.
Happy Sunday, everyone. My name is Janice Falcon, and I'm the youth director. Thank you. And today was Imagination Day, so you'll see kids with their creations. We were all talking, all the groups talking about what we can imagine, we can create, and just let our imaginations flow. And along those lines, I wanted to invite you guys to, you can't really see what's in here, but it's kindness rocks that we've been working on, and they have cool inspirational messages, and they're for you to take for yourself or to share with others. And if you paint rocks and want to help us grow this basket, it'll be in the bookstore, because we thought that was a cool place to have it, and they're free to take. Made with love from kindergartners all the way up to Uniteens, and YOU helped too. And so recently we went to Unity Village with the YOU, and it was an amazing experience. We went to the International Youth of Unity Conference, so we were about 100. And I was gonna share pictures on the screens, but this is the deal. I did not, because we have a Facebook group. It's Unity of the Triangle Youth and Family Ministry. The pictures are there, and if you wanna see them, we would love if you would join the group and help us grow and share what we do here, because I post about everything we do. So go check us out, and thank you.
So if the kids will rise and stand, we'll give you a blessing. We'll say these words to you as jewels of abundance into your heart to hold in treasure. Let's say these together. You are loved, special, and important, just the way you are. Let's hold hands and sing the peace song. The light of God surrounds us. I am the light of God. The love of God enfolds us. I am the love of God. The power of God protects us. I am the power of God. The presence of God watches over us. I am the presence of God. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. Take that to the moon.